let's talk about this International Atomic Energy Agency report, the nuclear report, which just came out today. Now, you remember last week, you had the IAEA director, Rafael Grossi, showing up with a number of inspectors. They were making their way from Kiev all the way over to Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. It has been under attack by Ukrainian shells for the past few weeks. And Russia has held the power plant since early March. There is no disputing among anybody who actually pays attention to the actual data and the journalists on the ground where the shells are coming from. It is coming from the Ukrainian side.
Well, a Ukrainian general admitted that last week, right? But the IAEA said, we're here now. Mommy's here. Like, we're going to get it taken care of. We're going to tell you how this is happening, why. They promised us they were going to stay until it's over, right?
Right.
That was what, I mean, we all waited for the director to finish his vacation, interrupt his vacation, get there quicker, right? Because we are now all concerned about a nuclear event. So they released their report today. Their conclusion is basically, yeah, that's dangerous and it should stop.
So here is the report. Yeah, I mean, it's a whole lot of gobbledygook, bureaucratic gobbledygook and just garbage. So they were there for a number of days watching as the shelling continued. Here's the report, the Nuclear Safety, Security, and Safeguards in Ukraine, the second summary report by the Director General. And, it has all we got a nice photo shot here.
How can they date it April 28th through September 5th when they only just told us they got there on September 1st?
Because this is when the last report concluded. So their first summary report wrapped up in April of 2022. Okay. So now this is like the gap between April and here, but they just got here on September 1st. So what are you relying on for that other amount of data? I'm just curious. Like
downloads.
It's like
from a thumb drive.
I wish I would have done that in high school. Like, here's all of the hours I've worked on this classroom. Here you go. Clayton, it says you've been working on this since January. It's now June. Did you work that whole time on it? Yes, I did. I don't ask questions. I worked on it the whole time. So they only worked on it for a few days. They were there. They left 2 inspectors there. The main inspector, Grossi, left. But this report is kind of a joke. So the Reuters has a good summation of it here, a little bit here. They said, overall, the IAEA is gravely concerned about the situation at the plant because the shelling continues. Says this hasn't changed at all. The IAEA is still gravely concerned about the situation, and it hasn't changed. Despite challenging circumstances, the IAEA has continued to implement safeguards in Ukraine. And the biggest, I think, takeaway from two big takeaways. One is that they want a demilitarized zone, a zone set up around Zaporozhye. So they want to have like a stable condition zone where, they don't want any military around it. They want a security protection zone. And we are ready to start immediate consultations leading to the establishment of such a nuclear safety zone to protect the Zaporozhye plant. The other thing, of course, is the damage to the plant. The team closely witnessed shelling in the vicinity of the plant, in particular on September 3rd when the team was instructed to evacuate the ground level administrative building. So, okay. So that's their report.
You didn't bother to see where it was coming from if
right.
You were there.
So that's that's to me the big takeaway. Well, one is the zone they want to
because I learned in high school physics that like things have a trajectory.
Right.
I just thought
you thought that they would look into that?
Yeah.
No. So that's the biggest piece of this they just didn't cover. They didn't look into it. They're like, it's outside of our scope. It's outside of our scope. How the hell is that outside? That's the whole reason you went there.
Now, Russia is saying that this call for a demilitarized zone is not a serious solution because this is not a militarized zone in the first place. It is guarded, the power plant is guarded by Russian forces, but there has not been conflict there. And it is run by Ukrainian citizens. So the shelling is coming from outside of the zone. So even if they set up a periphery, right, then they can still send, whoever is doing it can still send projectiles
over
in.
Right.
They should not be doing that. They should not have been doing that. So what makes you think that if you just go and draw some chalk around it, whoever's doing that from the outside in is going to stop it.
And of course, as journalist, I think Roger Eliason, I forget his first name off the top of my head. Forgive me. Excellent journalist, and Eliason. Anyway, we featured his sound here a few weeks ago on the show. He said the biggest concern from one of these power plants and having the shelling is not so much the radiation, which would of course be awful, but it's the water. It's the contaminated water, which would be vaporized and would literally kill thousands immediately and then hundreds of thousands after that. So that's the real concern. Shelling the plant has to stop, and it's continuing right now. Right now, Ukraine is continuing to shell this nuclear power plant. It's like they're, I don't know.
Are you talking about George, just to be clear?
George. Yes, George. Thank you. Not Robert. So Russia responded. Yes, Russia responded and said that it's regrettable that the International Atomic Energy Agency failed to identify the culprit for the shelling. And while its proposal to demilitarize the facility is not serious, Russia's permanent representative said on Tuesday. They personally, he said, and then this is, so I want to play this sound here because I think this is important. So Grossi went on with Christian Amanpour to talk about his results of this whole thing. So I want to play some chunks of this because it's so frustrating. Okay, play it.
And let me just ask you out and out, is it safe? Do we risk a threat of any meltdown or radiation leak or such thing right now?
Thank you very much. Good to be with you again. The situation is very worrying, continues to be very worrying. I was there, as you said, last week. I returned, and the shelling continues. So we are still facing a very grave danger. In your question, there were a number of things you mentioned in terms of a meltdown. I doubt it, but the mere fact that there is a continuity of attacks and shelling, deliberate or not, wittingly or unwittingly, people are hitting a nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe.
So who is hitting the power plant and why are they continuing? Wasn't that your whole job, Raphael? I mean, I know you want to get back to Vienna, and have some great chocolate or whatever, but for crying out loud, you were there for like 2 days, arguably one of the biggest stories in the world right now. Who is shelling the nuclear power plant?
I mean, in his defense, who wants to stick around a power plant that's being bombed?
Yeah, but that's your whole job. Like
right.
You're the IAEA director. Like, what else do you have? What other situation in the world demands your attention right now besides the Ukrainian nuclear power plant that's under siege?
So I must say that the danger continues.
So when you say people are hitting, can you make a determination as to who is hitting?
I cannot make that determination. We don't have the means to do that. As you know, you would need to be looking or monitoring the military operation in the region in all its vastness.
So look at even just looking at that video right there in Entrodar, right, Ukraine. It is under massive shelling at this hour. It has been, over the past 24 hours, Ukraine has been pounding the town of Endahar, which is right there at Zaporozhye. It's not hard to figure out the azimuths of where these trajectories of these missiles are coming from.
And Russia was ready to show them the shells that were marked from Britain. They saved them. They photographed them. They were ready to show that, right? They didn't seem interested.
Or the HIMARS weapons that were
right.
used to attack, which, as Scott Ritter on our show talked about, is a war crime that the United States, they're using American HIMARS to attack a nuclear power plant.
And so what is the opportunity cost that is missed here by an official not saying this is Ukraine, the West should stop enabling this because people will die, right? So in order to save bureaucracy, to save face, to continue to be supported, I don't know, to be popular in the Western nations that this guy presumably lives in, he won't say this. Stop sending these bombs because they're being reckless with it. And everyone around here will suffer. There are children, there are animals, right? Let's have some compassion for things that are not just crazy adults.
Right. So at the end of the day, this
Well,
report
I think,
is a joke. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, I think the most telling part of it is that he won't say who it is. That tells you exactly who it is, because if it was
Yes.
Russia, everybody would be screaming it was Russia.
Oh, he'd be happy
the
to
fact
say
that they're-
it. You're right. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, in the absence of it. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And of course, they're under enormous pressure from the EU and America, right? You're going to go there, or you're going to be independent. So no EU representatives, no American representatives are going. And by the way, no Russian representatives are going. And we also found out actually that undercover during the when they arrived, they were undercover members of the Ukrainian military and intelligence service who were dressed up and pretending to be press, and that was later revealed. So they were literally there dressed up as press agents from the Ukrainian side while they were meeting with them and the inspectors initially. So again, at the end of the day, this is a total shit show. It's a total joke. What did we learn? You want to have a neutral zone around the nuclear power plant?
No, we learned that it's dangerous and that it should stop.
And it's grave. He said it's a grave situation. It's a grave situation.
Yeah, I'm so glad we waited for that.
Well, and you guys aren't chalk experts to know what kind of chalk they might have used. It might be a missile blocking chalk. We don't know at this point.
Okay.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
like a dome.
Well, also that
Yeah.
I know I'm not an inspector, but one way to find out is pick up one of the bombs and see if it has writing all over it, like love messages to people's wives, because
Right.
you know who
Oh,
does that.
right. That also was an option. Yeah.
Here's the thing: if it was manufactured by Northrop Grumman or Raytheon, there's a good chance. Or if it's manufactured by British manufacturers, it's a good chance that it's coming from the Ukrainian side. Just a thought.